Hey everybody, sorry for my TV being loud. I've been sitting here watching Catfish, and this is a new one that I haven't seen. So I'm kind of like, what's happening? What's happening? Basically, this guy introduced a girl to another guy over the internet. They were all internet friends. But apparently the guy that and the girl were real life friends. They really knew each other. But the guy that he introduced her to has never seen her actual face. He's seen pictures and stuff, but the story's not adding up. It's like the facts are kind of, screwy. And I think he's covering for her. Now she's coming out and saying she hasn't been honest with the guy because she's in a relationship. So why is she talking to this other guy if she's in a relationship? Speaking of that, that's a good segue, I guess you could say, into why I decided to make this follow-up video for my narcissism page or channel on YouTube. I know what the experts out there say. I know what all the people on the internet say. I know what everybody on YouTube has said. I know what you read and what you see, or that you're supposed to go no contact. You're not supposed to worry about what these people are doing or what they're up to or what's going on in their lives. And I will say this, I have had no contact from him or with him since, I'm going to guess here and say it's been, several years. I've not had any contact myself with him in several years. Now, have I not kept up with what's going on in his life? I have learned things about what's going on in his life kind of by accident. But to be honest and upfront and forward and not trying to conceal or hide anything, I allowed my curiosity to get the better of me, and I did go check things out for myself. Some things I didn't have to go searching for because they were laid right out there. Such as, if you go back, let me go to my YouTube real quick while I'm sitting here trying to look for it, I know there's one video called I Spy New Supply. I'm trying to find that video and the date of that video. I'm just having a little bit of trouble getting there, My relationship with a narcissist, that playlist is open. That is the playlist that tells my relationship with this guy. I'm trying to go to my playlist. I'm having trouble getting it to go there. 6 videos in that playlist. I talk about a range of different subjects. I Spy New Supply, the Newbie, Part 1 and Part 2. And it's when I found out about this new woman, who, by the way, is now the old woman. And I know that's not funny, but she's now in the boat that I was in a few years ago. She is now finally coming to terms with the fact that she was involved with a narcissist. I do apologize. But yeah, I didn't realize that one playlist was set to private. It's now open if anybody hasn't watched any of these videos. There's some interesting titles. One is Yodeling for the D. And if you don't know what that means, then I would suggest you listen to that. There is the Flying Monkey Friend. This is where I talk about some friends that used to be and are no longer, and some situations that went on there. I talk a little bit in one video about Chris Watts. I talk a little bit about narcissists are stuck in a time warp. I talk about the moment when you finally collapse through all this. You've tried to be strong, you've tried to save your pride, just like this guy on TV may be doing. You tried to put on a brave face for the rest of the world, but inside, you're carrying all this crap around, and then there's a moment when you finally just collapse, and you have to admit that this broke you, and you have to admit that that you were powerless, just like an addict, and you have to start from there and start rebuilding. And I talk about that. I talk about just a lot of different subjects. I didn't realize that I had that playlist private. And then there's one video here where I talk about running into the ex and kind of letting those feelings kind of rekindle themselves for a moment, you know? And that happens to a lot of people. You can hate somebody publicly. You can tell the rest of the world what a horrible human being they were or that they are, and how you're glad that you're no longer with them. But there's this part of you deep inside that still remembers that affection, and that even if it was not real on their end, it was real on your end. So you're still carrying around these feelings of hope, the feelings that you held when you first got together with them. This hope for this new life, this new romance, this new love. And while you learn that it wasn't real on their end, you learn that you were being played or whatever, you do have a moment where you kind of like explore the thoughts. You allow your mind to go back there. Some people allow more than just their minds, Some people get together with their ex, and they hook up, and they may even consider rebuilding that relationship. It's just a fact of life. A lot of people break up and then get back together, break up and get back together. Maybe it's because they just argue and fight or whatever, but a lot of times with a narcissist, it's because they come back and they try to pull you back to that place. They try to pull you out of the... You're going to go through different stages when you're healing from narcissistic abuse. Just like any other kind of abuse or addiction. The healing process. And some people backslide. Some people go back. And that's a fact of life. And it may happen to you too. I started making these videos when I first started making the videos, the playlist, My Relationship with a Narcissist, was kind of a personal diary. That's the reason why I called the channel Diary of a Survivor. At the beginning, I didn't call it that. I think it was called No More Toxic People. I think that was my very first. So you may hear me talk that way in some of the videos. But when I realized that it was my diary, me telling my story as though I were putting these thoughts on paper for myself, just like somebody who keeps a journal or a diary, that's when I realized that's basically what this has been. So to get back to the full circle of all this, in the video I Spy New Supply, which was dated sometime around the 1st of 2020. And I had found out around the end of 2019, right around Christmas I found out, maybe right after Christmas. So it was around 2020 when it all finally come to my real knowledge. It wasn't just like rumors, it wasn't just stuff on the internet, but I actually learned about this. So now here we are in 2022. This relationship that I mention and talk about here, and you may hear me talk about this other woman kind of harshly, because at the time, believe it or not, I had some jealousy. Not that I wanted him back, but it's just a human natural reaction to feel rejected. And I was struggling with that. I couldn't believe that I felt that way, and I felt guilty for feeling that way. And then I went to a few of the channels on YouTube that I follow, and I saw all these other people talking about the new partner, the new supply, the new person in your ex's life. And they were all saying they felt the exact same way. They felt like that they had been discarded again and rejected again. And you start to ask yourself, what was it about this new person that I didn't have to offer them? What was it that they couldn't get from me? Why wasn't I good enough? Believe it or not, you do ask yourself that. And I did. So I probably did talk kind of smack about this woman. But now, I'm looking at her like, okay, she came through it. She's in the place right now where I was probably at when I started making these videos. Because she's divorced from him now, and he is now engaged to get married to somebody else. See, they had no engagement, he and this other one. The one that I talk about in my playlist. They had no engagement. He was still living with another woman. To make a long story longer, for those of you, when he and I got together, he had left the woman he was with prior to me. He had left her, and we got together. And then immediately, probably not even immediately after, but during our ongoing, whatever you want to call it, while we were still involved with each other, he had started back with this other woman, the one he had kids with. He didn't really try to deny it to me, but he tried to lure me into kind of a triangle relationship with him as the side thing, so he could go back to her and be with his family, be with his kids, not have to go to court and child support and all that kind of stuff. He wanted me to stay in the background and kind of stay quiet and let him play her, and at the same time play me, because he didn't think I was smart enough to figure out that I was being played. And I wouldn't go along with it. I wouldn't agree to it. He would tell me, just let me have enough time to make things smooth with her again, and then I'm going to leave, let her have the home, move her back in, move me out, move her back in, which he did within days of my leaving. My stuff was probably still, some of my stuff was still in the house when she moved back in. He wanted to put me up somewhere else in a home 20 miles or so away, where he could come by and see me when he wanted something, and then me sit there waiting for him to smooth things over with her. And then he was going to leave, which it was all BS. He just didn't want me to be single and on my own and out there. He wanted me to be still his toy and his plaything, but he wanted to have his family and his cake and everything else, I wouldn't agree to go along with it. When we parted ways, we did not have a fight. We did not say any long, meaningful goodbye and how much we meant to each other. It was nothing like that. We just kind of, I moved my stuff out. He helped me to move my stuff out, and I moved all my stuff to my family's house, and I stayed there for a while, and we just kind of dissolved, Just kind of two cars that passed in the night, I guess you could say, or trains, or whatever we were. But a year goes by, and who shows up? Hey, how are you? What's up? We did speak, and there were occasions where we spent time talking with each other. And I look back on that now and I feel regret, but I didn't know any better at the time. I didn't. I didn't know he was a narcissist. But this was around the time that I started picking up on some things. Started watching his behavior. I was no longer this love-bombed, brainwashed, googly eyes or whatever. I wasn't looking at him through these foggy, smoky glasses of love and desire. Now I was looking at him as another human being. I was looking at him as someone who I kind of started not to like all that much. Started to realize just what kind of a person he was. Started to see those red flags that I had missed. And I actually, more than just saw those things, I started paying attention to them. You know what I mean? I started like studying his behavior, thinking about it. Why is he looking away when he talks to me? Why is he rubbing his chin and looking up in the air? You know, why doesn't he want to make eye contact when he speaks to me? It was on one of these face-to-face occasions that I finally, he was trying to triangulate me with a female friend of mine, someone who I was very close to, someone who I knew very well, and he made the mistake of picking her. He could have picked any other woman in the whole universe that I have ever known, but he picked one person who I knew better. And people might say, well, never say never, because you don't know how shady these women are, that they might go behind your back and try to hook up with your man or your ex. But I didn't believe it, and I knew not to believe it. I knew it was all fake. I knew he was lying about it. I mean, even he didn't have enough conviction in the story, just like CMC trying to talk about the wallet story, or even the other night when she's telling the OD story. She didn't put no conviction into it. And he didn't either. He didn't really like punch it to make it seem real. And it was on that occasion that I said to myself, there's just something. There's something weird. There's something I can't put my finger on. I can't put a name to it. But the more I thought about it that night, the more I studied it over and over in my head. And I went to Google. This clouds cleared and separated in the sky, and the sunbeam just shone down, you know. And I start reading and watching and reading and watching, and I'm like, oh my goodness, here we are. This is where I've been for the last 3 or 4 years of my life. So, back to what I was originally talking about. I know I get sidetracked. I know I start talking about this, and I just have to like throw these thoughts out there. So, when I started talking about it, I was probably in the same mindset that this ex of his, the latest ex of his, is probably at right now, because we do have mutual friends on social media. We have actually commented and liked and joked around about some of the same topics on other people's posts. So I don't know if she's aware of who I am. I don't know if he ever talked about me to her, or if he just let that whole part of his life slide and move on. He may have brought my name up as fear that she may later find out about me, or maybe he didn't. I don't know, because I've never actually spoken to her. But I did watch this play out. You all remember, some of you may remember, I made a video where I talked about the dog going missing and showing back up again and then going missing again, and how I suspected something to do with him. I stand by that. I still believe he had something to do with that. Because the narcissist doesn't want you, they don't want their supply to love anybody but them. He, from what I've learned from the posts on social media, not just hers, but her friends of hers who've commented, he caused a big rift and a divide between her and her kids. Her family and friends were warning her about him, telling her that they didn't trust him, they didn't like him. They were seeing the same red flags that my family and friends saw and tried to tell me about and warn me about that I ignored. She was ignoring them too. And she started learning it for herself by seeing the behaviors in him. Now, whatever happened that finally caused it to come to a head, I don't know. She did play some things out on social media, like accusations, text messages she claimed to have read that he told her was from an old high school friend, an old friend from a place of his work throughout the years or something like that. So apparently he was texting other women, and she called him. But I doubt that was even what led to the whole breakup, because over the course of time that they were together, which was probably less than 2 years, what really got me about her in the beginning, if you listen to some of the videos that I talked about, I knew that she had to have known about the woman that he was living with. So she's on Facebook talking about God sending her a man and God sending her the right man and this and that, and about their family unit, their kids, and how they're making a family with each other. And I'm sitting there thinking the whole time, maybe somewhat judgmental and maybe somewhat hypocritical, because I did talk to him after he had reached out to me, and I knew that he was still living with the other woman that he had gone back to. So that was hypocritical of me to judge her when I was talking to him as well. And but I said to myself, who's she fooling? Who's she trying to fool? Do her family and friends not know him, that he was living with her, this other woman, and that he moved out of her house and went directly over to this new girl's house, this new woman's house, moved in with her, and a few weeks later they get married? I mean, there was no engagement there. There was no long-term. He was trying to prove to her that she was really the one, you know, by rushing in and marrying her. Narcissists love to rush in. They don't like to let things linger. They want what they want when they want it right then, and they don't want to wait for it. So he wanted to get her on the hook, where he could move into her home and keep her where he wanted her. And he was still going out and doing what he wanted to do, apparently. So then, all that comes to a head. She posts some stuff on social media about one day she's with him, the next day she's not, the next day they're back together, the next day they're not. This went on for a while, and then finally she changed her name and talked about getting a divorce, filing for a divorce. Now, let's see. I apologize, but I really kind of wanted to find that post just to give you a time range of how fast narcissists work. But I mean, the fact that he moved out of this home that he shared with the mother of his kids and moved straight into this woman's home and then married her within a few short weeks should have been a red flag to her. And now it probably would be. Looking back on it, she probably realizes how foolish it was, you know. But at that time, at that time, just like myself and anybody else, she was, um, ecstatic about this new love, this new great, fantastic, wonderful person. And then she found out what he really is. April. April, she had posted that. So here we are going into the end of June, and he's now with another woman. And here's the thing about this new woman. I said something the other day. You could take me, the ex-wife that he's just left, and the new woman that he's with now. You could line all three of us up side by side, and people who didn't know us would assume we were either sisters or at least cousins, because he has a very specific type. Same hair color, similar heights, similar body mate, what do you call it, body style or whatever. Everybody's like, well, you shouldn't be doing that. What good is that doing you? It does me good to know that I was not incorrect about him. It does me good to know that while I hate to see that these other women got hurt or are getting ready to get hurt, it tells me that it wasn't just me. It tells me that I'm right about him. It tells me that they're getting ready to suffer the same fate as the one before them. That doesn't bring me any comfort to know what they're going to go through, but it brings me maybe the righteousness that I'm seeking to say, see, it wasn't just me. He did this to other people, and they were blind, and they didn't see it any more than I did. I'm sure this woman he's with right now is head over heels, love bombed. She thinks that he's the best thing that ever came down the Mississippi. She's looking at him the same way I looked at him, and probably the same way the other woman looked at him, as a good-looking man, hard worker, average health, not sickly or anything, young enough to continue to work and to enjoy life, not old and broke down, not young and wanting to get out here and run around with everybody, but just the right age, a hard worker, a good blue-collar job, good paying job. He works. That's one thing I will say about him is, unlike a lot of other narcissists who are lazy and bum off of everybody else, this one works. And he works a good paying job too. So that's one more draw from the types of women that he seeks. Because they're moms. They're single moms. They want a man who they can be proud to be with. They want a nice looking man who has a good job, and they want to say to everybody, look at what I caught. Look at this guy. He wants to be with me. He goes to work every night, works 10, 12 hours, comes home to me. He buys whatever I want. He takes me and my kids places, and we hang out and we do stuff together. He's so funny. He's handsome. He's fun to be with. And they're over there at first. All your girlfriends are like, oh, girl, congratulations. I'm glad for you. I'm so happy for you. You look so happy. And maybe you're sitting there thinking, back off. He's mine. Don't even think about it, girl. And then you got a few people who will eventually start to come forward and say, listen, I knew him back then. I knew when he was with this other woman and the way he treated her and the things he did to her. I know that he's a liar. I know that he's a cheater. I know that he's a manipulator. I know he's not everything he's presenting himself to be. And you're looking at them like, what is your problem? Can you not be happy for me? What is your problem? Or do you want him for yourself? And he will tell you that, by the way. He will tell you if one of your friends tells you something about him, he will either say that they came on to him and that they wanted him, or that they hooked up at one time, or he will kind of hint to you to give you just enough thought that maybe that was what the situation was. Now, from what little bit I know about this new one that he's took up with, she's not from the same area that we're all from. She's kind of like a little farther away, like another couple of counties over. So maybe he's ventured out a little farther because he's done and went with all these other women in his own little town that everybody knows enough about him now to spread these stories about him or truths about him. So he found him one who's a little farther out there, you know. Maybe he's not connected to anybody in his life. Maybe not connected to any of his exes, or maybe just somebody he met on the internet, more than likely, who is somebody that he's not going to run with anybody from their past, or anybody from his past that's not going to really know her, to reach out to her to say, look, you're getting ready to go down a route. Like myself, for example, I would never do that as much as I would think, what if it could save this woman? What if I reached out to her mom or her friend and said, listen, I know you care about your chick over there. I know you don't want to see her ruin her life. I know you don't want to see her divided and separated from her kids. I know you don't want to see her go through hell, probably lose everything she owns financially, or at least, you know, being mistreated, lied to, and cheated on. I could do that, but I wouldn't. I won't do that. Because, for one, what would happen is he would tell her about me, and he would make me out to be this evil stalker who is, you know, like, still after him, still wants him. He would tell her the same things he told me about women who told me those things about him. Because there were people who told me things. There were people in the life of his children's mother who came and told me stuff about their relationship. And when I brought it up to him and asked him about it, he did that. They're jealous. They wanted me. They tried to hook up with me. Or he turned it around on her and said she was the one that was out cheating. She had her another man. She was always coming home late from work. When I wanted to do stuff together on the weekends, she was always finding an excuse and was busy. So he made it sound, he put just enough doubt about her in my mind to justify why he had walked off and left her. That she didn't make him happy, they didn't share any interests, they didn't do anything together. She was cold-hearted, cold in the bedroom, cold around his family and friends, didn't really want to like socialize. She embarrassed him in front of people. And he comes to me like, you're so sweet, you're so wonderful, let's go do these things together. And I'm like, yeah, let's go have fun, let's go enjoy life, let's go to this party, let's go to this show, let's go to this concert, let's go. But we never did anything. He worked all the time, I worked the opposite shift. So when I was at work, he was at home in bed. And when he was working, I was at home in bed. And when we weren't together, I didn't know where the heck he was at or what he was doing. But it wasn't like any big production like he would make it out to be, you know. So if I reached out to anybody in her circle and she went and asked him who I was and why I was saying these things, all of a sudden he would start telling her she's some ex of mine. She caused all this trouble between me and my other woman. She came between us. She started all this BS. and wouldn't leave me alone and all that, you know. And this new woman is so head over heels in love and enticed by him and into him and groomed by him and brainwashed by him that she would believe everything he tells her. So it's going to be a little bit easier for him to manipulate her, because she doesn't really know anybody from his past. And unless some of them reaches out to her, she won't know. But there will come a day when she starts to see through the red flags. There will come a day when she starts to regret the relationship that she has with him. There will come a day when she feels embarrassed publicly, humiliated, dumped, cheated on, lied to, misled, not just lied to, but misled. She will feel at fault. She will feel guilty. She will allow him to make her feel like her feelings are not, what is the right word, validated. That when she does finally start to feel and see through him and say to herself, why didn't I see this? Why didn't I realize this red flag when I had the chance? He's going to say to her, he's going to make her feel like she should have seen it. He's going to make her feel like she's going to question everything from the beginning of the very first moment that she met him. I did. I now have the answers, but I would sit and ask myself, when he showed up at that, where I was at this 5K event that was going on, just a little small town local little thing that I was taking part in, and he shows up there, and in the week or so leading up to that, when I would be out there at the trails and at the track and at the park, and he would be there, was he targeting me? Did he know I was going to be there? Had he seen on my social media that I was taking part in this and he shows up there? Or was it just a coincidence that he just happened to be there at the same time and then he went and looked me up on social media? So I would question that. Which way was it? Which way did it go? Because see, if he just so happened to show up and then he went and looked me up on social media, that would have meant that he saw something in me that he found attractive or that he was interested in. He wanted to go check out my Facebook page, then send me a Facebook friend request. But if it was the other way around and he saw me on social media and then came to where I was at, that was intentionally seeking me out. Either way, it was intentionally seeking me out. But which way was it? And I questioned that for a long time, but I know now that either way that it went, I was a target. He intentionally set his sights on me and went after me and got me and destroyed me, or tried to. For several years of my life, see, I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. There would be moments where I would feel attracted to him again. There were moments, and the whole time in the back of my mind, I still had that kind of joy when he would text me. You know, as badly as he had hurt me, and of all the BS that I had to bring myself back up out of, and there's one video in my playlist where I talk about that rock bottom moment where I was just down so low, and even after all of that, your mind starts to play tricks on itself. You start to misremember things. You start to think, it wasn't all that bad. He's not all that bad of a guy. It's okay to talk to him. He's kind of funny. I kind of enjoy just joking back and forth with him. And then as soon as I would start to feel that way, he would say or do something that would make me feel right back down in that dark place again. I would feel humiliated again. I would feel mistreated. Then he really got bad. He started figuring out that I was figuring him out. This was around the time that he really started to talk to me in a more demoralizing, demeaning, objectifying kind of way. He made me realize that I was nothing to him in any way, shape, or form other than a person he was using for whatever he was getting out of me at that moment, a life at my expense, whatever it was he was trying to get to boost his ego. That was when I started putting two and two together. I started watching his behaviors, and I pulled away. And thank the good Lord in heaven that I have had no contact with him. And as bad as I feel for these other women, I'm glad that they came along when they did, because it kept him on their track, on their trail. But don't think for 1 minute that just because a narcissist finds somebody new, that they'll leave you alone. I doubt that there's a professional or anybody out there who talks on this subject who would say, oh, you don't have anything to worry about. Been 12 years since you spoke to them. Oh, you'll never hear from them again. Don't get too sure about that. I've read comments on YouTube from people who said, I've divorced my ex and 22 years went by, and one day the phone rings and it's them. So don't ever think that a narcissist forgets you. A narcissist does not ever forget, and they do not ever burn a bridge. They try to make friends with their exes. They try to win you over. That was what he tried to do to me. He tried to make a flying monkey out of me. He thought that I trusted him and thought enough of him and had enough love or desire or whatever it was for him that I would play along and go along with whatever he wanted, and I wouldn't do it. He was mistaken about me in that part. Maybe that's why he's never reached out to me in between these times he's been in between these women, because he knew that I finally saw through him, He figured he's wasting his time. He knows that I'm with my man that I'm with now. He knows about us. He knows we've been together again for a while. And he just sees no point in it, But I do feel bad for this new woman. And I know that the marriage, this engagement, it won't be a long one. They'll be married before very much longer. He's not going to give her enough time to figure him out. He's not going to give her family and friends enough time to figure him out and come and tell her, I don't trust him. I don't like his attitude. I don't, I heard something about him. I heard somebody talking about him. I asked somebody on his friends list about him or something like that. Narcissists do not want to give anybody time. Just like CMC blocks everybody who comes onto her page and says anything, because she doesn't want those people reading and sticking around and following her and supporting her to read that stuff. Give them time to start wondering if that stuff is true or not. So they either, this is the reason why she calls and tells everybody on her supporters and all her followers that all of the people over here in these awareness pages are haters. She has to use that term. She has to demonize and call us vile demons, so that those people who are supporting her will see us in that way and will not believe a word that we say about her. It's the same way a narcissist does with their partner, And I've talked for a solid hour, and I know that the first part of this video was kind of rambling on and on about catfish and all that kind of stuff in my videos. It's a humbling fearful kind of feeling knowing that people are going to go and listen to your video, to listen to what I'm saying right now, and someone may hear my videos and hear my words and look at me in a certain way. So it's fearful what kind of feedback you're going to get. It's fearful what kind of image that you're putting out about yourself. But for the most part, on my Facebook page, I have had some good feedback. I've had a lot of people say, you know, I'm glad you made these videos because it kind of gave me some insight into the person that I know. On my YouTube channel, I've made a lot of videos. I've gotten very little feedback. I've gotten very few comments. Maybe people don't like my content and they don't stick around. But it wasn't until the people from YouTube or from Facebook, from the Liars, Scammers, Wispy Wisp page, started coming over to my YouTube, that I started getting people listening to what I had to say. Before that, I would have one or two people who would listen and comment. And for me, it wasn't even about that. I wasn't looking at the numbers on the videos of the people that I was watching. I wasn't looking to see how many subscribers or followers they had. When I started making my videos, it was so that I could tell why I was there. It was so I could tell what had happened to me. And that maybe somebody like me who stumbled upon this whole thing by accident or by investigation would hear me and say, wow, this happened to me. That happened to me. I understand what you're saying. I went through that. Because that's how it all came out for me, you know. I appreciate all of y'all for listening. I just kind of wanted to give a little follow-up update, I guess you could say, on where he is right now, as far as I know. I was saying before, I feel more sorry for her than I do for the one before her, because her children were older. Her children were starting out in the world. They were old enough to drive. They were old enough to work. They were graduating. They were starting college. They were starting their lives. This woman seems to have kids who are probably around the age of junior high school, early high school years. 6th, 7th, 8th graders, maybe 9th graders. And I feel really bad for them because I don't know how close they are with their mother. I don't know their relationship. I don't know if they're good kids and not getting into trouble. And he's going to come in and he's going to look like this father figure. He's going to take them hunting. He's going to take them fishing. He's going to take them riding four-wheelers. He's going to take them on vacations. He's going to buy them things that they want. And he's going to sucker them in just like he does everybody else. Then he's slowly going to pick one of them that he doesn't really get along with that well. He's going to create some kind of divide, not between him and that child, but between that child and that mother. He's going to plant these seeds of doubt to where they're going to start to kind of turn on each other. This woman is going to end up alienated from at least one or two of her children. Or at least their relationship is going to suffer. She's going to end up having family and friends that probably support and love her turn their back on her. She's going to end up feeling isolated and alone. She's going to end up being lied to about her family and friends. She's going to end up being lied to about women friends of hers who she's going to believe have the hots for this guy because he's going to let her think that. He's going to plant enough seed of doubt between them that she's not even going to speak to them anymore, to the point that she can't learn the truth. She's going to go through an emotional roller coaster. She may very well go through a financial roller coaster. She may lose her pets if she has pets, like the other woman did. And then one day, she's gonna catch him talking to somebody else. She's gonna find out that he's not coming home from work when he should have come home from work. She's gonna find out that he's texting somebody. She's gonna find out that he's cheating, or that he's at least verbally, emotionally cheating. She's going to find out that he's going to stop hugging her as much. He's going to stop kissing her as much. The love in the bedroom is going to go from this passionate love, enjoyment of each other, to one-sided, almost abusive, to the point that she's going to feel like, what the heck's going on here? She's going to have self-esteem issues. She's going to feel like she's not satisfying him, and she's definitely not going to be satisfied herself. He's going to become demanding. He's going to become demeaning. He's going to want to demoralize her. He's going to treat her as though she is a doll. That's his word for it, doll. Never called me that during our whole relationship, or during any of the time that we spoke to each other over the years after the relationship. But toward the end, when he started trying to hook back up with me again, and I wasn't interested, started calling me doll. Had never called me that. I didn't know, where did that come from? I hated it. I remember the first time he said it, I'm like, what is that? What does that mean, doll? What is that? Why is he all of a sudden calling me that? I remember hating it. I didn't know why at the moment, but I just remember hating it. And then as time went on, I started figuring out why I hated it so much, and why he called me that, because that was all I was to him in his desire, or his, whatever it was he was seeking, was just a body, or a scapegoat, whatever you want to call it. Just somebody to play with and toy with and use in the moment, and then toss away. Not a human being with emotions and thoughts and laughter and tears and fingers and toes, but just a porcelain, empty vessel. That's all. He was just looking for something that he could, like a puppet. And he'll end up treating her that way too. Eventually, he probably treated the one before me, or after me rather, like that. The one before me as well, and the one before her, and the one that comes after this one. Because just like, this is why I made this video, to show their pattern. They don't stop. He could get married to this woman right here, and he could stay with her until his last breath. He could stay with her well into his 80s or 90s, because her kids are younger. And people are probably saying you're jealous. You're only talking about it because you're jealous, and you can't let go, and you won't stop talking about it, and you're just making these videos for your channel to get views or whatever. Not so. She may never know who I am. She may never hear my words. She wouldn't believe me right now if she did hear them. But if I'm still alive, and I'm still here to witness it, and it's brought to my attention, it may or may not be, because like I said, she has no social ties to anybody that I know, so I may never learn the truth about what goes on between the two of them, the way that I had connections to this last person. But he could stay with her for many, 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 many years until he dies, till they are both old and gray and in the nursing home. Doesn't mean he's going to be faithful to her. Doesn't mean he's going to treat her any better. It doesn't mean he's going to stop being a narcissist and treating her like a supply. Doesn't mean that he won't be talking to other women. Probably already is. Doesn't mean he won't take any opportunity presented to him to cheat, to lie, to manipulate and gaslight her. But if I had to guess, I'd be very shocked if this one goes long term. Because of the children. Because this woman, not only is she getting ready to go through this emotional turmoil and destruction in her life, but she doesn't even know what this is getting ready to do to her children. That's the saddest part about it. Is that she's so love-bombed by this guy right now that nobody could tell her right now, come back in a year or 2 or 3 from now and tell me what your relationship is like with your kids. Because just like with the pets, narcissists do not want anybody getting the attention that they should be getting. They don't want anybody being loved or cared for when they're sick or when they need attention the way that they should be getting it. They will take the attention and the love and the affection away from the children, away from the friends, away from the mother and the father, and put it on themselves. They'll absorb everything that the supply has to offer them. They will take and take and take. But they will never give it back. They will right in the beginning, just enough to lure you in, just enough to make you feel like you know they're the one. You're happy. You're all snuggly. Everything's perfect. The world is so wide open. And then one day you're going to reach to them for a hug. You're going to reach to them for a kiss. You're going to reach to them for a smile. And you're going to see a blank face. You're going to see blank black eyes. You're not going to get a smile. You're not going to get a hug. You're not going to get a kiss. You're not going to get any affection. And you're going to start asking yourself, what am I doing wrong? I gotta be better. I gotta try harder. I gotta give more. I gotta prove my loyalty. I gotta prove my worthiness to this man or woman. And you're still not going to get anything back from them. And the moment that you voice to them that you feel rejected, the moment that you voice to them that you feel upset or question anything about them, they're going to look at you and be like, you're crazy. It's all on you. I'm the victim here. Why are you trying to turn this around on me when you are the one that is doing wrong? Take my word for it. Take my word for it. And like I said, if I, which I'm not going to, don't nobody get there in your thoughts, that I'm going to reach out to this woman and try to warn her. I know there's people out there saying, you really should, you really should let her listen to your videos, let her hear what you went through. It wouldn't matter. Nobody could have said it to me. Nobody could say it to 1, 2, 3, or 4. And whatever number she falls in this whole line of, destruction. She'll be one day looking at the new person in his life and saying, I wish I could tell her what she's in for. I appreciate everybody for taking the time to listen. I know this is a long video. I know I try not to usually let my videos go this long. I may edit it down a little bit on YouTube and take some of this out, some of this feed, But But I do appreciate y'all, and I hope everybody has a great day. Thanks for listening.